Hey, this is Mandy from Mending Mandy. Thank you so much for checking out my channel. And if you're one of my regulars, thank you so much for supporting my channel. And I really hope you're getting some good things out of my videos. Like always, I just want to say that I'm not a psychologist or a counselor. I'm just a girl on the mend who's trying to share my experiences and my trauma and my abuse story so that maybe I can help you heal from yours. Also, you might hear my dog chewing on her bone in the background. So, good times. Today I wanted to talk about manipulation and really how to decode whether someone is manipulating you or not, because it can be very confusing. This is a little different than my psychological manipulation of abuse video, which I will put the link below if you haven't seen it. This is just going to be more about manipulation in conversation and how to detect it. So, like I said, the first thing I will say about manipulation is that it is very confusing to know when you're being manipulated, and it sneaks up on you. Because quite frankly, manipulation is someone sneakily trying to control you. And a lot of times, in my experience with manipulation, and I think this holds true, is that the person is trying to make you feel guilty or ashamed or just flat out responsible for their feelings. And they're doing this so that that shame, that guilt, that responsibility will provoke you to then do something for them or act in their way. It's about them getting their way. So whether that's an apology or some kind of retribution, you know, you may not know what they want, but it will come out. It's all about them getting their way. So because this gets so confusing, and I get confused about whether I'm being manipulated or not, even though I had years with a manipulative guardian, it's still tough. So I came up with an equation that can really help dissect, you know, your conversations with people that you think you might be being manipulated with. So basically there's 3 different parts, and that is controlled narratives without facts plus emotional charge. So those are the 3 things. And the tactics fall into any one of those categories. So the first one I want to talk about, the first part of the equation, is controlled narrative minus facts. That's our first part. And some of the tactics that fall into this we'll discuss. So firstly, they act like you guys want the same thing. And the reason why that's important is because you probably wouldn't engage with someone who you didn't think had the same goal in mind. So when you're having a beef with a friend, when you go to talk about it, your similar goal would hopefully be that you get some understanding and you restore the relationship. Well, if that's your goal, and the manipulator may tell you that that's their goal as well, but as you get into the conversation, you can see clearly it was not their goal. They just wanted their feelings hurt, or they just wanted their way. So that's the first thing to establish, is they may act like they want the same thing. The second thing that they control the narrative and omit facts is that they project. And projection is when something is true about me, but I say it's true about you. So say I have an issue with lying or whatever. I might project that onto you and be like, you know what, you're a liar, you're deceitful, you're telling me white lies all the time, I can't trust you. So you see how someone will take their own insecurity or deficiency and put it on you. The reason why the manipulator may do this, it seems, is so that they can distort your perception of yourself and make you more vulnerable to buying into their perception, which is basically, hey, you hurt me, you're horrible. And that'll make you act on their behalf better. The third thing is deflection. So deflection is when you ask a question and they either answer it with a question, ignore it, or give some kind of smart ass reply. And the reason deflection goes under controlling the narrative and omitting facts is because that's what it does. If someone's asking you questions, they're the ones in control. So on the cop shows, if you're asking questions, you're in control of the conversation. They don't want you to be in control. They want themselves to be in control so they can keep that narrative going. And their narrative most likely is, you hurt my feelings and this is how I want you to repay me. The next one, which drives me nuts, is the the mind reader. So the mind reading that a person may do is they may tell you what your thoughts, what your intentions, and what your emotions are, even though you may have not even given an inclination of what those might be. So I recently had a squabble with an ex-friend, and she started telling me that I never liked her and I didn't want to hang out with her because I thought that she was a burden and I wanted someone else to take her on as their own burden, which all of those were false. I don't feel that way towards my friends. And it was also just crossing a line because she was trying to tell me all the things I thought, felt, and all this stuff, when that's not fair to do. And you can't know other people's intentions. That's why we ask. So the reason they do that is because if you can get someone to question themselves and their own intentions, thoughts, and feelings, you can probably manipulate them easier, question their reality, and then they can feel the way that you want them to feel. The next one is pretty self-explanatory. Won't listen to your truth. And it's like you're hitting a brick wall. You go to talk to that person and you're like, hey, I actually don't feel that you're a burden, but it just feels like they're not hearing you and they're just continuing down their own path. And that's kind of what talking to a manipulative person can feel like, is that you're on two different conversations. You're trying to connect, hey, I love you, I care about you, and they're just on this woe is me trip, and you're just like sitting there like, oh, hello. So they won't listen to your truth, and obviously that is to control the narrative and to omit your facts so that what they're saying can become more digestible to you, so that if everything they're saying is true with no contest, you can see exactly why their feelings were hurt and just accept it, instead of them actually being mature to open their eyes and see that there are other facts here. So that's just won't listening to your truth. It tries to gain control and eliminate facts. Gaslighting I've covered in my other videos, but this is when they will tell you, hey, no, that didn't happen, even though you know it did. Or I didn't say that, even though you know they did. And this is a way to, again, control the narrative for them to try to, make you question your perspective and your facts. And the last one here is the ultimatum. So the ultimatum, you might notice, comes at the end when they're losing their grip. And maybe you've hung in strong. And I've had a few ultimatums in my time with my guardian and some friends who were trying to manipulate me. And it's just, hey, if you don't do this, our relationship's over. If you don't acknowledge my feelings and apologize right now, it's all over. Or if you don't, whatever the case may be, it's over. And that's, again, trying to regain control over the situation by coercing you to do something for them to get their way. So those are all the traits, not the traits, but the tactics that a manipulator might use to control the narrative and omit facts. And that's the first part of our equation. So if you're feeling that someone's controlling the narrative and subtracting facts, you might be getting manipulated. So let's look at the second part of the equation. We're adding in an emotional charge. So an emotional charge is so powerful because it'll make you more susceptible to do something when you're emotional. So, for example, anger. When I'm angry, I'm more susceptible to, yelling, or whatever the case may be. Emotion is powerful. It stirs us up. And a lot of times we get swept away by it without emotion, without facts. So the first thing the manipulator might do to create an emotional charge is to love bomb you. And I put this at the top of the list. It may not happen every conversation, but this is when the emotional manipulator tells you, you're so special, you're everything I want, you are not like everyone else. Like, I had a person in my life who I only knew for 3 months, and she started off her manipulative rant, her mean rant, by literally love bombing me. You're like no one else. I can't open up to anyone but you. You're unlike any friend I've ever met. And the reason why this is an emotional charge and it's manipulative in this context, maybe not in a separate context, is because it seems that they're trying to get you to feel worse. So what I mean is, you will feel more guilt the more you know someone cares about you. And that's why I think a lot of times the love bomb comes first before the manipulation. It's to give you that stronger kick that, oh man, I'm going to feel all this guilt because they cared about me so much. The second one that goes kind of along with this is drama. And I don't say this lightly because my guardian used to say that I was super sensitive whenever she did something highly unhealthy to me. So I don't mean that someone's sensitive. I don't ever want to say that about someone. But there are instances as well where you can say, whoa, that was a really intense reaction to something that was not that intense. So for example, I had a friend who I didn't hang out with her a couple times in a row because I was pregnant and sick, and I told her that. And in response to that, she told me that she was crying all night because I apparently didn't want to be her friend anymore, and she was up all night, and she thought I would never talk to her again. Like all of this just like emotionally generated stuff that was just intense for one thing that was like, whoa, okay, that shouldn't have been the reaction. That was way too strong. And that will make you feel more guilt and shame. That's the drama. The third one is the one that we're more familiar with, and that's the guilt trip. The guilt trip is obviously, just going down this path of, you hurt me, you will answer to me, and I will keep telling you how you hurt me in 5 million different ways until you respond to me and give me what I want. It's kind of like a tantrum. It's a guilt tantrum. And I know I've been guilty of it in the past. I think we all have kind of done it to a degree. It's not good because it's basically coercing someone to listen to you instead of just being mature and like, okay, I'm going to communicate this effectively. Guilt trips are a way to get power over someone to make them feel guilty. The victim rant, I found this to be a little bit different than the guilt trip in that the guilt trip kind of pertains directly to what you're talking about. So say in the example before, the manipulator is saying that I blew her off and pawned her on someone else. She will continue going down that about how I hurt her in that specific stance, the guilt trip. Whereas the victim rant is kind of just making all the victimhood spill over into their life, and they're giving you this victim show of, oh, woe is me. So that's the victim rant. So they might be like, oh, you rejected me and now everyone else is rejecting me. My mom rejects me. My dad rejects me. I had this other friend who's not my friend anymore because they rejected me, and I've done nothing wrong, and I'm such a lonely person. So they go down the victim rant is what I call it. And that's to invoke more sympathy on your end and to really stir up your emotions to feel bad for them, because then they'll prey off those to in turn make you feel guilty and shameful. And again, make you do something that they want. So that's the victim rant. And the last one is, as we all know this one, the silent treatment. And I know this could be control as well, because you can use the silent treatment to control someone. Do not recommend. But the silent treatment can go under control as well as emotions, because the emotional chaos part is, if someone's giving you the silent treatment, how do you feel? Anxious, worried, uptight, walking on eggshells. It stirs so much internal chaos inside of you. So those are all of the tactics that I could come up with that a manipulator can use to emotionally charge the situation. And that's the second half of our manipulation code equation. So just remember, controlled narrative minus facts plus emotional charge equals manipulation. If you're seeing a lot of combinations of these things when you're talking to a certain person, whether it be a friend, relative, or lover even, I would just really take a close look at that relationship. Is it healthy? How does that person make you feel? Do you feel a lot of bad things around them? Do you have a lot of red flags when you're with them? And just remember that it is okay to step back from the conversation. It's okay to say, hey, I really need a moment, and to walk away or to stop texting that person for a minute. It is okay to practice self-care. And no one should make you feel guilty for that. Just remember, you're worth it. So please leave a comment below talking about any manipulative experiences you've had, or if this code is helpful to you. And as always, please like, subscribe, share, or comment below. I'd love to read your comments and get to know you better. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.